during the thing, you'll pull it up.
I sure will. We ready, Bianca?
Yes.
Okay, sorry about the delay and we apologize, and I'll call this board supervisor meeting to order. And I've asked Supervisor Ron Campbell to lead us in the pledge.
Well, please join me in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Campbell, and we welcome all. We'll next go to agenda item 1B, call to the public. Is there anyone that'd like to address the board and call to the public?
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
Or you want to go ahead?
You go first.
I wanted to take a little bit of time and crow a little bit about the Duncan Wildcat volleyball team. Sheriff probably wouldn't, but I'm going to on his behalf. Actually, maybe he would. But our team did really, really well this year. And the all-region honors had two of our young women land on the region all first team. Emily Kempton as a hitter and middle blocker, and the sheriff's daughter, Rachel Sumner, as a setter. That's high praise. This was a tough conference. 2 or 3 of our girls, looks like one of our girls, Carly Coates, made the second team all region. And then our coach, Cassie Mortensen, was named the all region coach of the year. Aubrey Evans was the regional defensive player of the year. They did very well. They lost to St. David. That wasn't as competitive as it should have been, but they went on to finish second in the state, just behind the state champion. And then they lost to Valley Union in the regional season, but then they came back and avenged that loss in the tournament. So any event, as a Duncan Wildcat, very proud of those young women. They did well.
Great job. Awesome.
Thank you.
It's always good news, good to share good news about kids and their successes. So that's awesome.
Sheriff Sumner, I believe you wanted.
Yes, sir. Tim Sumner, County Sheriff. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Yes, they had a great season. It's also been a busy weekend this past weekend. As you know, Mottas Bluff has been before you about the event to bring in for the 150th birthday for Clifton. That turned out well, bringing that helicopter in. You can see it now parked down at the sheriff's office. We've already had quite a few looky-loos coming in and stopping to want to take photos and different things like that down there with it. So that went well. And of course, the Colors of Copper went well. I saw of course, the insignia was there for Greenlee County sponsoring or helping with the sponsorship. And so that's good to see. I had one thing that I wanted to bring up that's been a little bit of a struggle for me in my office so far in the IT, the website. I know the new website's coming, which is a good thing. I think it's been a good thing for quite some time. We had a meeting. I appreciate Xeon got on with a couple different webinar type Microsoft Meets that we did. In the midst of the one that I was on, we still had quite a bit of difficulty. I know Xeon himself was having some difficulty trying to navigate the back end, I guess you call it, right? Where he was trying to fix some of the stuff where some of us, like I didn't have permission to edit. I know some of the other offices didn't have permission to edit their own website portions that they have access to, that they need to do actually. And we're trying to get that finalized, but I really can't get on there to get that done. I would just say that I know for you three, you probably don't have to deal with that, and you're not the one getting on there and doing that portion, which the other electeds are doing that, and we're taking on the brunt. I just thought for the price we pay, we're going to get a little bit more of the website building up front done for us. I don't have an IT personnel. I've asked about that, and I would need one. But right now, I'm trying to put that in our lap. So I'm just telling you right now, as far as my stance from the sheriff, it's going to be difficult trying to get that taken care of. It is a little bit difficult to use. I've looked at reviews. I brought it up to Xeon during our meeting. I looked at we're using WordPress or WordPress, I guess, WordPress, which is, not a highly ranked one. It was down. I told Xeon at the time I was looking it up. It's like a 2-point-something star out of 5. And there's different websites you can go to. I'm looking at one right now. The top 16 has the number 16 is WordPress.com that we're using. It does say that it uses a lot. There's a lot of you really have to kind of know what you're doing on the front end to try to build that up and get it set and stuff like that. So I know IT's already done a lot of the work, or not IT, but BITS has already done a lot of that work by trying to transfer some of the data from our current website to the new one. But there's still a lot that's cumbersome upon each elected office. And again, I know for you three, you don't have that problem. You have the staff of underneath you and to handle that, and BITS is probably handling yours directly for you, but we don't have that resource. So I would appreciate if maybe we could maybe get somebody from BITS to come and work with us while we're setting it up for each elected office to help with that, because it is more cumbersome than what it appeared to look like at the start. And it's going to be difficult for us with our limited resources as it is and our limited time to try to get that up and running. And I know we're trying to get it up and running as soon as we can. And I think it's a good thing. Don't get me wrong. I still think it's a good thing. I'm just thinking that it's going to be a little more cumbersome and difficult on each elected office, other than you three, than we first thought it would be. So I just appreciate if somehow we could work something out there. So thank you.
Thank you. Derek, you check into that for us, please.
We will.
Anyone else in call to the public?
Morning. My name is Dave Manus, Public Works Road Manager. Every Tuesday, the road crew has a safety meeting. And we talk about different near misses, things that happen, whatnot, not only on the job, but off the job. And we just share that with each other. And it's been brought to my attention. I just wanted to share it with everybody else, because I know there's several of us not in this room that travel that road from here to Duncan. Just keep in mind that we have a lot of employees at the mine that live in Deming, they live in Lordsburg, and they leave at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, and they drive all the way to work. They work a 8, 10, sometimes 12-hour shift, and then they drive all the way back to Lordsburg and Deming, which is a pretty long day. So we've had a lot of near misses. I keep hearing stories over and over about, people almost getting hit. We've had some accidents. So I just wanted to make everybody aware of that. Just keep that in mind when you're traveling that road right there, to look for ongoing traffic and whatnot coming towards you, not only in front of you, but behind you too. So anyhow, that's all I got.
Thank you.
It's good to share those experiences.
Yeah.
Anyone else in call to the public? All right, we'll go ahead and close call to the public, and we'll go to agenda item 2. The Board of Supervisors will convene as the Board of Directors of Green County Public Health Service District, and will reconvene as the Board of Supervisors following consideration of these items. A, consent agenda.
So move that we approve the consent agenda as posted.
I'll second that.
Motion and second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Aye, motion passes. We will now go to agenda item 3. Flood Control District, the Board of and we are convened as the Board of Supervisors. The Board of Supervisors will convene as the Board of Directors of the Greeley County Flood Control District, and after the order of business, we'll reconvene as the Board of Supervisors. A, consent agenda.
So move that we approve the consent agenda as posted.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. We are now convened as the Board of Supervisors, and we will go into agenda item 4, and a motion to go into public hearing would be in order.
I so move.
I'll second that.
Here we have motion and second. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are now in public hearing. And
Is this a chance for the public to weigh in on whether or not the board would grant a franchise to Cactus? I want to say Cactus Water. Is it Cactus Water?
Cactus
State
State Utility.
State Utility LLC.
Where is this at?
This is Bernie Loma Linda. Yes.
anyone from the public wishing to make comment? If not, we'll close the public hearing and we'll go into, we're now convened as the Board of Supervisors. It's again out of public hearing. We will go to agenda item 5, Mr. Rapier.
Thank you. This is an application or a process, more accurately, initiated by Cactus State Utilities LLC. They have purchased the Verde Lee and Loma Linda Water companies and have merged those two, legally merged. The systems aren't merged, but they now own both systems. This is granting a franchise. Previous franchise were granted to the previous owners, but with new ownership, this franchise would then allow Cactus to operate. It also requires them to do things like coordinate with us if they're going to cut through roads and place utilities and easements. It's a fairly standard franchise arrangement. And the only thing that's changed is who's operating it. Now, I will say that Cactus to this point has been an outstanding partner with the county. One of their employees, Fred Kreis, am I saying that correctly? Has been tremendously helpful on a number of projects, simply giving us his insight as a person who's worked in this space of small water utilities for many years. I think they will be a good partner. We simply grant the franchise and then they interact with our roads and our other departments, but by and large, they are now responsible for the water service in those two communities.
Okay.
I would recommend approving it, by the way.
Okay, is there anyone from Cactus State Utilities here?
There's not.
There's not?
I'd like to make a comment. I would suggest that, of course, we're gonna approve this, but I would suggest that maybe we do a few phone calls and get our road manager together with Cactus in regards to, getting acquainted. Have you met Fred Kreis, David? And actually, he's going through some health issues right now with personal health issues and at this time. But I would suggest that maybe, David reach out or, we can make a contact with the individual that's taking his place and maybe have a visit, boots on the ground, have him come in and meet with you on the two systems, because, you take care of the roads out there. And because we've had a situation at one time where they had to come in for a permit and so on and so forth, and maybe we can just get off the ground on the right foot. So just a suggestion.
We can make that contact, certainly.
Okay. So David, I'm perfectly agreeable if you would reach out and be at that meeting with David, so you're the supervisor in that area.
Okay.
I think that would be even more advantageous. Okay, so with that, a motion to approve the franchise to Cactus State Utility Operating Company would be in order, LLC.
I move that we approve the application for the public utility franchise submitted by Cactus State Utility Operating Company LLC as presented.
I second that motion.
That motion is second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Thank you very much. We'll now go to agenda item 6. Mr. Rapier.
Thank you. This is a follow-up to a request that was made to the board to help get the Festival of Lights off the ground. As the board is aware, this has changed leadership recently. This was an event sponsored by the town of Clifton up until this year. They found themselves lacking in administrative personnel to pull this off. And so the Clifton Social Club has stepped up. They volunteered to take on the organization of this. Town of Clifton has been very generous. They also have received some sponsorship dollars from the United Way. We received an updated budget from them that showed they needed about $3,500, but then they received about $5,000 from the United Way, and they had some other sponsorships that they were still pursuing. Nevertheless, they asked that the board consider a request to help them get off the ground. I know this board has been consistent when things like this are requested, that it's off the ground and not a ongoing year after year commitment. But I know at one time when they first presented, they didn't have any other sponsorships lined up and they were about $2,800 short. But I think if the board were inclined to make a donation, it would help them see next year and help them be self-sufficient.
Derek, what is the ask? What is the ask amount?
They have not specified an amount, a specific amount. Haven't asked? This, you're with the group?
Yeah.
Maybe you could give us your name so you know and stand at the podium so we can hear you. I know we all love it, don't we?
I'm Marina Morales. I'm the co-chairman this year for the Festival of Lights. The other lady, she had a NASCAR event. So I'm here representing the social club. Right now, we kind of kept the expense sheet the same as what the town had paid last year. They paid EA electrical $1,500, and then our DJ is about $1,700. We did have a problem in the kids zone. Our insurance that we went through that was suggested from the town of Clifton will add an additional $850 to our insurance policy because of inflatables. I did speak with Mr. Rapier about that, and right now we are taking out the jumping balloons, and Morenci Fire has so graciously put together a team to help us do a s'mores pit. So we're gonna have that instead. And then our face painting balloon animals, we just kind of want to keep the kids zone more of experiences. He did give me a lady to talk to about at the fair. She runs the county fair. So I've called her. I left a message. I'm waiting for a phone call. I reached out to a petting zoo in Tucson. With the gas prices, they are going to run a pretty penny, but at the same time, we just want the experiences in that zone for the kids. And then, of course, we have like our decorating and supplies, our banners that we have to replace because the ones that the town have, they say Town of Clifton. And like he mentioned, you know, it's the Clifton Social Club that is taking this on. So we'll have to reproduce all those banners again. And then our advertising, the event for the insurance with the inflatables was $1,500, and then our Burke's sanitation, we wanted to at least have 3 porta potties and then the hand washing station. So it left us after trying to figure out at least between 2,500 and 2,800. I did apply for a grant or a sponsorship for United Way, and they did graciously give us 5,000. I did also apply for a sponsorship from Freeport McMoran, and I've yet to hear back on that. But I gave them my detailed expense sheet, and that thing was very detailed, from the Scotch tape to the garland, the lights, every single item that we were going to be using for our decorations and the whole celebration.
So I just want to make a comment. You know, I want to thank you and the entire group of the social club for taking on this
Absolutely.
main event, because it's really a important, I believe it's an important event for this community. It's been going on for years and years. And like I said, I'd like to thank you and all the ladies that took this on over at the social club. I know that we've talked about with other organizations that come in for donations where we try to emphasize that we don't normally give out these type of donations because we want them to be sustainable. We want you to be sustainable.
Right.
We do grant a donation, especially like in the situation right now with you changing hands from the town of Clifton to the social club. So I'm all in favor of this, all in favor of giving some kind of a donation here. I don't know if my colleagues over here have anything to ask or say, but I'm going to let them speak before I.
My one question is, how much do you need? What is the ask? How much?
And that we tried to sit down and come up with a number, but without knowing from FMI if they're going to be able to offer us a sponsorship this year, and then being able to pull off, with what we have. And then if a vendor backs out, then we have not much time to pull something else in. And if it's gonna cost more or less than, what we have, I was hoping that we could. I don't know. Cause I know with United Way, I could only ask up for a sponsorship up to 5,000. And 5,000 from the board that's way too much from the board
Mhm.
as a donation.
Is 1,500 too little?
Oh, no, absolutely
I
not.
mean, we want to be helpful. I'm just saying. we
Right.
wanna
No,
do this.
absolutely not. No,
Is
that's,
that
I was looking
Derek,
at
was there-
2,000. Is 2,000 too much?
2,000 would be great.
it's the reverse option?
Oh,
2,000 would be great. I mean,
And just keeping in mind, Marcelo, that this could be seed money to get you off the ground next year because we want you to be sustainable.
and that too, that's why I didn't want to say a set amount and then say we have $1,000 to start off with for next year.
Yeah.
It would be great to be able to have that.
Well, just my opinion, I think it's very important for our community and very important for our county, and it's part of economic development and bringing folks into town. And we
Yes.
want you to be successful. We want you to be self-sustainable. We want you to, continue this tradition for a long time. And so I'm willing to make a motion and approve $2,000 if you.
We do have sufficient economic development funds to cover that amount.
Okay. Well, you want to go?
I so move that we approve a donation to the Clifton Social Club in support of the Festival of Lights at an amount of $2,000.
I'll second that.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your support and your donation
I
and,
have to vote still.
oh, I thought you guys did. Okay.
He was holding his tongue. He was holding his
See?
tongue over here.
Oh,
We
I
have,
love the gratitude though. This is great.
we have a motion on the floor and is there any I would have one thing on the petting zoo.
Uh-huh.
It probably won't work this year.
Yeah.
But in future years, Duncan has a great FFA chapter. If you let it, they have animals. You have 4-H that also have animals. Use their county, their local, and it's a great advertisement for them. Plus, it helps the community also.
That would be, I didn't even think of that. I was thinking of like zebras and camels and
Oh, I'm sure these would be.
when she said think big, I was like, okay, let's get a zebra.
These would be rabbits and chickens.
Oh, that,
calves, sheep.
oh, that would be
Horn
perfect.
code if they could get, I'm joking now, but I think that would be helpful, I know Duncan's very proud of their FFA and we have the county, their 4-H is phenomenal now, under Ashley Mingus.
Okay,
And so, and Kayla Presley is the FFA advisor, but it probably too late this year, but in future years, I think they could really help you a lot.
I might still reach out and see
See,
if they say, all they can do is say no.
is there any further discussion?
No.
Not, we'll call for the question. All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes. Congratulations.
Thank you. And I hope to see you at the festival December 2nd.
We'll be there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll now go to agenda item 7 on the Alpine UTV trail.
Thank you. This was, if you recall, Jerry Smith made a presentation back in May of this year. He was on the Zoom. And the concept is a UTV, ATV trail that extends roughly from the Payson area across the White Mountains, back and forth up on top of the rim, until you hit Hannigan Meadow. That would be the terminus point, of course, here in Greeley County. The group has since applied for and received a grant in excess of $300,000 for the planning and layout of this. What they're hoping for now is donations from affected jurisdictions, groups, and so forth to help build a pool of matching funds. So when they apply for other grants to finish out the build, they'll need some matching funds. The ask back in May was $2,000. Obviously, it terminates, the terminus for the west end is, the east end is Hannigan Meadow, which touches on us, and it weaves through part of the county on its way over into, I suppose, Apache's, our neighbor at that end. So that's what they're asking for. They've asked for a $2,000 donation. Again, we have economic development funds to cover that amount should the board be inclined. The economic impact would be limited somewhat to our northern area, but it's certainly part of a package that I would imagine that trail would be used by hunters frequently, and others who want to get out into the wilderness somewhere.
Yes. Go
Oh,
ahead.
just real quick, and I do remember that that presentation, and it is unbelievable what they're going to be able to do. I mean, having that UTV trail from Heber, almost Payson area, all the way to ending at Hannigan Meadow, and I do think that it will be a stimulus, because I spoke to a UTV group, and every weekend they have roughly 40 to 50 UTVs that head out somewhere, and I know that's a pain, but I mean they are traveling, and almost every Saturday morning you can see them at the marathon up in Morenci. Everybody's filling up with gas and stocking up their ice chests with sodas, I'm sure, and taking off. And so I really do think that it is a economic boom. I mean, that is a huge untapped, I think, resource. But there's several groups that come in from New Mexico even and travel up and go down, Lower Eagle, and they went up Upper Eagle. And I know that even the Nabors, Max Nabor, he jumped in that, and they went all the way up to down on the Blue, and it was pretty amazing. So anyway, I do think for that amount of investment, I think it's a goodwill gesture on our part to support that economic development. So
I totally agree.
Stole my thunder when I was on the BLM rack. It was unbelievable, and what they do, and there's several groups every weekend, and it doesn't matter if those vehicles will go through snow, water, they don't care. The wilder the better. So
I don't like seeing them when I'm hunting, but you know what? Any other time, it's all right. Go out there, enjoy the great outdoors and all the beauty we have to offer up north. So.
yes. So if a motion would be in order.
Well, I move that we approve of the donation to the Arizona Alpine Trail Organization to assist in development of the Alpine UTV Trail in the amount not to exceed $2,000.
I second that motion.
A motion is second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Thank you very much. We now go to agenda item 8 and Mr. Repair.
Thank you. The meeting has been so positive up to now. And
We're going to continue with positivity.
we're gonna kids with positivity, but unfortunately, we're losing our county librarian.
I'm not gonna let her retire.
I threatened her once to duct tape her to her chair so she simply couldn't leave. But good for her. She's done such a wonderful job and so much with so little. And the grants she strings together and particularly during the COVID era. But she has decided that it's time to do something else. And so she has made a recommendation, and I'd ask Ms. Sui to stand briefly and talk just briefly about her time and then her recommendation of Sabrina Dumas.
Hi, I'm Karen Sui, County Librarian for another month. First of all, I'd like to thank the board for allowing me to serve in this position for 12 years or since 2012. I've learned so much. I've made lots of new friends from all over the state, and I've gained knowledge that I will continue to use in my third retirement and hopefully my last retirement. The county librarian position was created by the state of Arizona to enable the free library system to participate in state grants and aid, which is part of the state of Arizona budget to support public libraries. The main purpose of this job is to apply for funds, write and administer grants, and participate in the library board meetings. I've spoken to both the Duncan and Clifton librarians to find out if either of those ladies would be willing to take on this position, since they have both good qualifications. At first, neither one was willing to consider it, but in further conversations, Sabrina Dumas, the Clifton librarian, agreed to apply when the opening became available. I also spoke to Mr. Rapier and to Mr. Adams about the replacement process and would like to note that the Arizona Revised Statute, Section 11908, states that the Board of Supervisors shall appoint a county librarian to serve at the pleasure of the board. With no interview process needed, I would like to ask the board to appoint Mrs. Dumas as the next Greenlee County librarian. I also spoke to the state librarian, Holly Henley, as Part B of that same statute requires that the appointee be certified by the State Board of Library Examiners. This board is only called to meet when necessary, and Mrs. Henley stated that since they could not approve any certificate in the short amount of time that they are given, that the appointment should be made, and they will notify the appointee of what they need to send to the Board of Examiners for their permanent certifications. That certification is renewed every 3 years unless you have a Master's of Library Science degree, which no one in the county, as far as I know, has. Since I've gone through that certification process 4 times already, I know Mrs. Dumas will have no problem getting her certification. She's familiar with all the library services. She has written numerous library grants on her own and has administered them in a timely manner. She continues to attend conferences, classes, and webinars on a regular basis. And as the Clifton librarian, she has hands-on daily librarian experience, which I did not come into this job with. She's very forward-thinking and has just recently written a grant to bring VR headsets to her library. So if you've never done VR, stop in and take a tour. She is open to all new ideas, carefully makes decisions based on what is best for her library and her patrons. Thank you for your time. And do you have any questions?
I don't think we have any questions, but Shui, you have done an outstanding job and with very little, and we appreciate it was an act of love and service, and we recognize that. And thank you. 11 years. Yeah, you deserve a rest, but I hope that you realize the good you have done for the people of Greenlee County. And I know in the Duncan area, without that library down there, a lot of people would struggle, and the services that you brought in, and like I say, it's been a service of love, and it's shown. And thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
I can't say anything better than what you've already said, so I'll ditto. Thank you.
And every time you come in here every year to give us a report, Karen, it's just, people think that you go to the library and check out a book and sign a card and leave and stuff, but man, you have, as Richard has mentioned, the things that carry on at that library are outstanding, and I think a lot of the people don't even know what really goes on over there. But thank you for everything you've done in all these years. Like Richard said, it was the love that you showed to everyone. Thank you.
Just want to invite everybody. I think it's next Friday, the 17th. We were having Japanese taiko drummers come down and enjoy that. It's at noon. Bring your own chair.
In Duncan or in?
It's in Duncan. The Morenza School was going to have one performance because there wasn't enough room at the library here. But yes.
Okay. Thank you. Then a motion would be in order to.
I had a question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
So, and this is for you, Derek, but it says consideration of appointment of the county librarian upon Carol's retirement, and in the letter it says that the recommendation is Sabrina Dumas, if she applies, Has she applied?
I've told about Sabrina, she's very interested. I let her know it would just be an appointment, she wouldn't have to. apply.
Okay.
So she was excited.
They didn't want to appoint if she didn't want it, you know?
That I made the call to teacher. Karen said she's ready for it. I said, well,
Awesome.
Karen, if you need more info, she's the one that knows what's going on.
Appointment without consent is a draft or conscription, yes.
Okay, all right.
I don't know about
Well, with that, I move the appointment of the county librarian as Sabrina Dumas upon the retirement of the current county librarian, Karen Shui.
And I second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes. And Karen, once again, thank you. Thank you.
Good luck. 3 times the charm, right? 3 retirements, that's it.
Okay, we'll now go to agenda item 9.
Let me introduce it and then I'm gonna turn the time over to Matt Bollinger. We've been struggling for some time. Our current system for providing water for roads and for some of our on-site facilities has been lacking, and we have water resources, but as is not uncommon in our neck of the woods, those wells can't produce enough to simply water and do the roads and all at one time. So it becomes a matter of increasing capacity so that we can meet all of our different functions. And I've asked both Tony and Matt, as well as Dave Manus here, in case there are questions that come up. But I'd like to have Matt begin with kind of what we're looking at, and then I'll talk a little bit about where the funding can come from.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Thank you for hearing this proposal. This, as Derek had said, this proposal was something that was a group effort between all of us. The reason why is, as Derek was saying, we have some resources in the county. In particular, what I'm going to talk about today are 3 different wells. We have one well down at the Duncan Fairgrounds that's not being utilized, what we call well 3. You guys might be familiar with it. I think you were all here when we drilled that well, maybe 10 years ago, if I remember right. Maybe about 10 years ago, and we had decided right after that to discontinue our public water system, our public water system down at the Duncan Fairgrounds, and so the well has been sitting there. Tony had already brought electricity to the well. The well's there. The well's actually a pretty decent producer, produces about 15 gallons a minute. But when we discontinued the water system and hooked into the Duncan water system, that well, it sits. So if we can go to the next slide, there's a lot of benefits from increasing our capacity to store water. Again, we have some resources. We have a wonderful, beautiful well at the Loma Linda Park now that is a big producer, and we have a 35 gallon per minute pump in that well. We also have a well up at the landfill that doesn't produce as much, but it still is a consistent producer. What we don't have is a good amount of storage capacity. And so, as Derek was saying, you can have a 35 gallon per minute well, but if you try to fill a 4,000 gallon water tank with that kind of flow, you're going to have employees sitting there for a few hours to fill that up. So again, lots of benefits from increasing our storage capacity. It will hopefully eliminate, certainly cut down on what we're spending for water in Clifton and in Duncan, because currently our water trucks are filling up and we're paying for that water by the gallon. It would also reduce fuel costs with our trucks coming down to the Clifton standpipe, for instance. They've got to truck that water back up Smelter Hill. And and it puts a lot of wear and tear on our vehicles. I think Dave was saying we've lost 3 turbos. 3 turbos, Tony? We've lost 3 turbos on our water truck from the strain of hauling 4,000 gallons up the incline. So it should reduce wear and tear on our equipment. And then again, it's just a good I think it would be a better stewardship on our end of utilizing the resources we have available in the county. The downside of it, of course, is going to be the cost of the project. The Loma Linda Park portion of this should run us about 18,500. The fairgrounds, a little north of 36,000, and the landfill 17,900, with the total estimated cost of 72,500. We will start at the Loma Linda Park. Currently, we have 5,000 gallons of storage in the form of 2 2,500 gallon tanks. I'm sure you guys have seen the tanks. Currently we have no standpipe capability. And the water that we have, the 5,000 gallons in storage, is intended to be used for the ball field and the vegetation at the park. And again, we have a wonderful well there with 35 gallon per minute capacity. What we would like to do is add another 10,000 gallons of storage capacity to that park. Probably somewhere, Tony has been trying to figure out where a good place would be to put tanks, but to add 10,000 gallons of storage capacity that is specifically for a standpipe, so that we could use for our water trucks. Of course, we'd have to add a booster pump, and the standpipe would empty out to the outside of the fence. So vehicles could come outside the fence to fill up. That would give us a total at the Loma Linda Park of 10,000 gallons for a standpipe and 5,000 gallons for the ball fields and the vegetation. Next slide. The next area would be, again, Duncan Fairgrounds, well 3. Currently, we have no storage at that well. We have no standpipe. It does, again, run about 15 gallons per minute. It does have electrical service in place. And we do have, as everyone knows, we do have some storage capacity. We have about 10,000 gallons. Actually, it's about 9,000 because those tanks top off at 4,500 gallons. I threw a picture up of our current spot over at the Duncan Fairgrounds. One of the problems we're having right now is we're having some issues with well 1 at the Duncan Fairgrounds, which is our primary well. Our well 2, which is our oldest well, is kind of runs about 8 gallons a minute. The water that's accumulated in these tanks currently is used for ball fields and vegetation at the fairgrounds. What we would like to do at the Duncan site is utilize well 3, which the picture on the bottom right is well 3 at the fairgrounds. Again, not being used at all right now. We'd like to add 20,000 gallons of storage capacity at that facility, which would be 4 or 5,000 gallon tanks, add booster pumps to give us a total at the standpipe of 20,000 gallons. Dave might be better one to answer this. Do we utilize more water in the Duncan area?
Yes, because of the events that we have down
Yep.
there and whatnot, not only just on the road, but.
Yep. And so currently we are purchasing that water from the town of Duncan. Next slide. The last site that we would like to look at would be the landfill. Currently we do have 8,000 gallons of storage capacity at that site. The well doesn't run as strong as our new well at the Loma Linda Park, but it runs consistently at 10 to 13 gallons per minute, depending on how much stress you're putting on that well. There's electrical service in place, obviously, at our landfill. What we would like to do is add an additional 10,000 gallons of storage capacity to the landfill, add a booster pump, and then add a standpipe outside outside the entrance of the landfill that our crews could use for water trucks. For a total of 18,000 gallons at that standpipe, and Dave would be able to put the new tanks with his existing 8,000 gallons. So that would give us 18,000 gallons at the landfill. That would give us 10,000 gallons at the standpipe in Loma Linda, which would give us a total combined of 28,000 gallons in that area. And then again, down in Duncan, 20,000 gallons. Next slide. These are just a breakdown of the estimated costs for each proposed project. Again, down at the Loma Linda Park, 18,500 to add the 10,000 gallons of standpipe capacity. The next Duncan Fairgrounds, 36,100. Obviously, we were proposing to increase the storage capacity to 20,000 gallons at that facility, and then the last budget with a breakdown of items, 17,900 for the landfill to increase by another 10,000 gallons beyond what we have available today. And if there are, do you have any questions?
Just want to make a comment, very well presented. I don't have any questions. All makes sense to me.
I have a question. When you're getting these capacities for the water tanks, are you anticipating any increased demands on these in the future? In other words, maybe looking down the road 5-10 years, are this going to be adequate? Because it's a lot easier to spend on capacity a few extra $1,000 now than 10 years from now, and you have to tear everything out. Or
Yep. Yeah, Supervisor, good question. The reason I'm involved in this is because of the emergency aspects of not having water when you need it. And that's probably not a position we want to find ourselves in, of having the resource. We have good wells, but we don't have the storage capacity to be able to utilize those resources. And so this is how I became involved in the project. I wasn't just trying to stick my nose in Dave and Tony's business, but we all got together and figured out a plan of what we could do to increase our capacity. Water is a precious resource, and when you don't want to find out you need it when you don't have it. And so,
Mr. Chairman, if I might also add, we have had great partners with both the town of Clifton and the town of Duncan. In fact, Duncan for the longest time was such a good partner, we didn't pay for water for way too many years. And we've rectified that, but we've also found that we need the towns as our backup, but we need to meet our own needs in-house. I've visited specifically with Manager Hinton, and he's willing and wants to continue to be a partner. We work on one of their roads by a IGA we have in place. The area around the elementary school we work on with them. And so, and then we've been using some of their water for our arena. Sometimes, depending on the conditions at the county fair, we'll wet the whole place down before, the day starts each day, depending on what we're doing. This will get us to the capacity to manage our own needs better. We want to continue partnerships with both towns in case we need additional capacity. But your question about looking to the future, this actually would put us in position to bring all of our own needs in-house with a bit of excess capacity, but not, if our needs were to increase 10 years from now dramatically, we would probably be looking to add storage tanks again. One possible now as well, for example, there's a 5,000 gallon tank that was damaged. It had a crack in it. We believe we've repaired that. It needs to be stood up on its end and tested. And also we think that there may be some opportunities to acquire some of these tanks at a little bit less cost than we projected. When I visit with Matt, I says, I want the highball on this. I want, it's easier to come back in and say we spent less and just come back in and say we need more. But if we have, in fact, if I could have the screen there. Let me get to. You'll see this, and you'll recognize this. This is our ARPA score sheet. And what I'm going to propose is that let me go over this real quick so we're all familiar with it again. Thanks to the trick the sheriff taught me months ago, I can make it bigger. We started out with 1.8 million available ARPA funds. We put into categories things that we wanted to earmark for funding. And then as we've got those projects completed, we moved them over to the left column. And then there were other things that we said, you know what, let's kick around. If we have excess money, we can do that. Well, water storage is not on this list, as you'll see. But we've completed the county fairgrounds arena. Coming down, we've got the remodel of the parimutuel building has been done and completed. North kitchen is done. If you were to go down today and look at the south kitchen, you wouldn't see one. They've demoed the entire building, and that was a good thing. I think Tony said that we're looking at pouring concrete next week, next Tuesday, so that will go up. We've got 3 of our best public works people on that, and I expect that will be done soon. So the South Fairgrounds will move over here. We have replaced the county or the Superior Court AV system. And then these 2 have already been funded. They were funded early on. The Loma Linda Park well came in right about 75,000. I think slightly under, but right in that area. And of course, we did premium pay early on as well. So as we look down here to projects, we built in 184,000 for budget overruns, you know, higher costs during the pandemic and so forth. Widen that out a little bit so you can see it. And with all that we've budgeted and all that we've actually completed, we still have 144,000 excess in addition to the 184,000 that is not currently earmarked. So if the board wanted to increase this to 100,000, we've got the capacity to do that. If we want to stay in the 72.5 or 75,000 and do the tanks that we've projected, we've got the budget capacity to do that within ARPA funds. And so we still have projects that are on this list that we're still working on. The GPS base is almost complete. If you've been out to the airport, they've done it across our road, they've put in fiber, they put in power, and I guess this has caught the imagination of people all around the country. There's people going to fly in from when we set that thing up, and I don't know if you christen it with a bottle of champagne. I'm not sure what you do, but whatever you do, there's people come out and going to see whatever they do. But that's nearly done. And so even with those projects now coming off of our to-do list and onto our completed list, we still have the capacity to do this water storage. Now, let me mention with something else. Supervisor Gomez astutely picked up on a Bureau of Reclamation grant solicitation for small water reclamation water projects. And I think we glanced at this first, and I think this probably would fit under the definition of that. I asked Matt to look at it. He assigned Anthony Hogeen in his department to look at it. The applications are due at the end of the month. There's about 30 million in that kitty to divvy up. Awards will not be given until May of next year. It also appears, and Matt, you correct me if I'm wrong, but most of the awarded projects in the past have been larger scale projects. They do about 5 or 6 a year.
Correct.
And so would we qualify? Probably. Would the federal juice be worth the federal squeeze? Don't know. But we would be looking at a delay till early summer of next year. So we did consider that, and I appreciate Supervisor Gomez alerting us to that. But I think if we want to get the project done, we've got the funds on hand with ARPA, and we can move forward that way.
Thank you. Like I say, I just wanted to make sure that we put plenty of capacity in there. Because like you say, water is, it's, when you need it, it's, you never appreciate water until the well goes dry. Then you're wishing you had it.
Just a comment, and and then I follow-up questions, but I think the way that we're doing it, adding the 2,500,
David brought up, you could use 5,000 gallon tanks and set them lower, as long as the top of your water is going to stay level across those tanks.
and my follow-up question, what was the total again? 78?
72,000 and
500.
500.
Any further questions, Mr. Bollinger?
No.
Well, if not, a motion would be in order.
I so move that we approve the installation of water tanks and standpipes to increase water storage capacity and utilization at Loma Linda Park, Loma Linda Landfill, and County Fairgrounds at the amount not to exceed $72,500
Using ARPA funds.
using ARPA funds.
I'll second that.
Here we have motion a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes, and thank you. Thank you
Thank
all
you.
involved for this.
Good team effort.
That will go to agenda item 10.
Mr. Chairman, if I might, before we get started, I'd like to ask the board to consider to table this item. There's a few more things I needed to work through with our engineer and talk about. As a matter of full disclosure as well, Supervisor Gomez owns a parcel that abuts this cul-de-sac in Calle Jean. We also apologize, when we printed, it became Calle ? We're not sure what that is.
And it's Holland.
It's Hon. I keep saying it wrong. I've been corrected too many times. Callejon. But anyway, I would like a little bit more time to have a few more conversations to make sure that this is appropriate and well crafted. So I obviously Supervisor Gomez can't vote, so I'm going to talk to you two. But if I can have a little bit more time on this one, I would appreciate it.
Well, I move that we table agenda item 10 until the next Board of Supervisor meeting.
And I'll second that. Okay, we have a motion. All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes, and please let know that Supervisor Gomez abstained. Okay, we'll now go to agenda item 11.
I don't really have a whole lot new information. Now is the time when constituent groups, including counties and other groups, are meeting with legislators to talk about the upcoming session. It appears there's going to be a couple of things that will dominate. I think overwhelmingly water is going to be one of those that dominates. There has been so much activity in the off season this year, which has been short off season. And we already know the tension between the western counties and the eastern counties, the urban versus rural, the desire by some to create more regulation everywhere in the state versus local regulation or leaving things as they are. I think that's going to become a dominant theme. We have a tentative meeting set up right now with Senator Gowan, Supervisor Lunt and I to meet and we don't have a specific agenda from Green County this year, but we want to get an idea from him what is out there. budget wise, we know that the first budget projection of the current year, their first quarter, as we talked last time, is down 400 million. In a $17 billion budget, that's not a lot. The alarm is ringing because of the trend. And that's where we're concerned. The biggest drop in budget revenues is in personal income tax. As you recall, the legislature a few years ago set up a trip system, if you will, that if certain benchmarks were met, then a flat tax of 2.5% would go into effect. We hit the trip marks, and so that's where we're at. And income tax is way down. In good economies, that's good because people will spend that money. In poor economies, when people hang on to their money, they're not paying as much into the public kitty, and they're sticking it in their own pocket and hanging on to it. So with that, we will keep an ear to the ground and see what themes or other concerns we have. We are, as always, listening to several of our constituent groups that help us be alerted to problems we need to mobilize on. So with that, that's my report on legislative and budget issues.
Any questions of that? No. Thank you, Derek. We'll now go to 11B. Cassiana.
Thank you. So we are in the month of November. This Friday, the 10th, is the county managers meeting. Saturday is the 7th annual citizens walk. Next week is on the 15th is Small Counties Eco WIPA, and then on the 16th is CSA Board of Directors. I have equal on the 17th.
Yeah, and I think
we
that's a
changed
miss.
that. Okay.
Thank you.
Our next board meeting is on the 21st. And then we have Thanksgiving, the 23rd, off the 24th. That's all I have for November. Going into December, the 2nd is the Festival of Lights. The 8th, county managers, and then Duncan's Festival of Lights on the 9th. Our board meeting for December is on the 12th. We won't know if we'll have a second one. That's just to be determined if we need one. April is on the 13th through the 15th. After emailing Penny, she did mention that you guys are, those meetings were still taking place because they were before the ACO meeting. So I just left them on there. The 13th, Small Counties Equal and WIPA, and then on the 14th, CSA. Christmas on the 25th, offices are closed. And that's all I have for December.
Anyone else have anything that they need to add to the calendar?
Just that November 11th, it's also Veterans Day.
Yes.
January, I did leave blank. Our first both of our meetings are on that Tuesday after a holiday. So I don't know if we're gonna push them back or what we're doing. Going forward.
Third.
It would be the 3rd and the 17th.
Third, whatever.
The 3rd and the 17th, correct?
We will present the board a tentative calendar for next year at our 21st meeting and ask you to adopt it on the meeting in December. But tentatively, yes, those would be correct. Our 1st and 3rd.
Also, in November on the 10th is the junior rodeo awards banquet. That's being held at the Burden Activity Center. You know, it's amazing how many kids participate in that. And once again, David, thank you for your team that has always been there and helped keep that arena in such good shape. And they appreciate it. And Tony, every time I get good comments on the chairs, thank you for getting nice chairs up there that they really appreciate it, and every rodeo, they say, oh, these are so nice, and thank you. We appreciate all the support that the Junior Rodeo Association gets from our county employees. Anyway,
Mr. Chairman, one thing we want to note of, it's probably more note, not necessarily needs to be on the calendar per se. And that is that we have the county is going to participate in a much more involved way in the Duncan Career and College Fair. So many of our 2 or 3 of our offices, I think, are doing presentations and having their own booths. We're going to have a countywide booth that talks about job opportunities from the courts to the roads to the health department to everything. So we can sort of make our youth aware that Greeley County is a great place to work.
David gonna man that.
Yeah, I think Dave's got by himself. He's not even listening.
Okay, well, thank you, and I'm glad to see the county there. I really am. I think there are some great career opportunities at Greeley County. I mean, we still have a retirement system, which most business have done away with, and I think we have some great benefits. So thank you for doing that, and I know Kayla is really appreciated too. So is there anything else that needs to come on the calendar or events?
No.
Okay, with that, we'll go to the consent agenda.
I so move that we approve the consent agenda as posted.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? To approve the consent agenda. Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes. We now go to agenda item 13. Supervisor reports, Mr. Gomez.
I don't have anything, Chairman.
Oh, just quickly, last week I had a meeting with the Mexican Wolf executive team meeting, and we discussed with many of the different stakeholders and groups and discussed the MOU and some clarifications with that, but it was a good meeting and very informative. That's it.
Well, thank you. I really don't have any reports. Like Mr. Pierce said, we are already getting ready for the legislative session. I think it's going to be a tough session, and water. There's a big battle, and I hope that they can realize the value that rural has to this state economy. Because right now they feel like we're expendable, and that was a Richard Lund thought, but I think their actions are proving that. And so anyway, yes, go ahead, Dave.
I sat in on a team meeting. The status of water and how it may affect affordable housing in the Copper Corridor. The guest speaker was Michelle Van Quatham. She's the law offices of Michelle Van Quatham PLLC. It was put on by ADQ, Teresa Harris. I send that email to Derek and Reed, and would you forward that to these folks?
I will.
This gal pretty well knows the inside and out of water situations. It might be a good idea that we might get together with her and have a conversation, because she did end the presentation that she gave, that if anyone has any questions to reach out to her. You might send it to Matt too.
Well, I'll forward. I'll include him on.
Very interesting, a lot of information. I asked when it first started, I asked them if they were going to record that. And they said, absolutely. They send out that email, but they're sending a recording also that I'm waiting for. Okay. So
There being no further business on the agenda, this meeting is now adjourned, and thank you.